Hey, this is Carla.
And this is Jasmine.
And you're listening to Cracking the Coconut,
where we tackle taboo conversations in the Filipino community.
By cracking one coconut at a time. Welcome to Cracking the Coconut, where we tackle taboo topics through unfiltered, safe space conversations. I am your host, Carla Jay.
Yes, and I'm also your host, Jasmine. This is episode 5.
Hey everyone, Carla Jay here. I'm sliding in real quick to tell you that this episode was originally slated as episode 5. Due to some unforeseen conflicts, we're switching up the schedule. It's our first podcast and we're still learning. Thanks again for all the support. Now back to the cracking.
Yay! We're halfway through season 1. You know, how do you feel about all this, Carla?
It feels so grand, spanking awesome that we're actually doing this.
Yeah, man. And you know, it's actually a 2-women show here at Cracking the Coconut. Everything we do is in-house, from recording to editing to social media posts to all that good stuff. It is done by these 2 individuals right here.
Yeah. I think that makes me the most proud. Whether season 1 gets 2 listeners, 20 or 200 or 200,000, who knows? I think what I feel the most proud about is the fact that everything has been done by the 2 of us.
Yeah.
Besides our jingle, our logo, and our promotional photos, everything else, like you said, from website building, social media managing, recording, audio, everything, it's all us 2. So I think that's what makes me the most proud. We got a passion, we had an idea, and we just dove right in head first.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
Today's episode, we are cracking family expectations.
Woohoo.
Woohoo!
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 So, Carla, what's an expectation that your family, expected you to have, growing up?
To be obedient, to not talk back is a big one I got growing up. But also talking back can literally, in my family at the very least, in my Filipino family, talking back equates to even defending yourself. Mm-hmm. So if
what's an example?
Just simply asking why it has to be done in a very nice, respectful way. For example, Carla, go pull out the weeds outside. I could simply ask, but Dad, why? And that would be considered talking back.
Yeah, I could definitely see how that's, a miscommunication there, and how as a kid you're just asking a question that's what's the word? Innocent, an innocent question. And as the adult, in a lot of Filipino families, they are very much like, hey, why are you talking back? Immediately defensive. For what reason?
I think that's one of the issues with Filipino parents, or at least Filipino-American parents, is that control. They just constantly want to control your life. Like, for example, forcing kids to wake up early in the morning. So growing up, I didn't have a lock on my door. Not because I wasn't allowed to, but just my bedroom door didn't have a lock on it. So in the morning, Saturday mornings, after a long week at school, the door burst open. My dad's like, wake up. Why are you still sleeping? You're being lazy. Come outside and pull the weeds. Yeah. No.
What time was this?
Probably like 9 a.m.
Okay.
Nothing. It wasn't, I was sleeping until like 1 p.m. or anything. It was legit still morning time. And I just find that so disrespectful. And it wasn't like I could say, Dad, please don't, can you knock the door? Like, don't pull the sheets off of me. It's really disruptive. It's kind of scary and traumatic.
Yeah. I feel you. Like, I remember growing up as well, and that happened to me. It'd be like Saturday morning, and fresh from school, probably fresh from a basketball game, and the door opens up like, hey, get up, or time to get up. And it's like, hold up, you just shocked me waking up. Like, my heart's racing, and I'm not relaxed, I'm not calm, like I'm having like an anxiety attack because you're rudely awakening me. And my mom, though, like she was one who didn't wake me up rudely.
That's nice.
She'd open the door, come up to you, and kind of like like rub your leg or your cheek or something, like, hey babe, wake up, you know, and that's the way to wake somebody up.
Yes.
You know, not like, hey, get up. Like, what the fuck?
I know. And that reminds me, so when my dad used to burst my door open and, you know, I'd tell him, I'm tired, please just let me sleep in. And he would respond with, why are you so tired? All you did was go to school.
Wow.
And the thing is as a teen, the hardest thing is going to school. Maybe a few extracurricular activities. But as an adult, you and I who have seen the real world, who've experienced the real world, who have careers, yes, going to school is easy, but that's because we've experienced the real world. As a teen who has never experienced the real world, who has never experienced anything outside of their schedule in school or maybe sports or clubs, high school is the hardest thing. And I think looking back on it, it was so unfair that to just be rudely waken up and be called lazy because I wanted to sleep in till 9 or 10 a.m.
Yeah. And also as a teenager, your school, you know, your extracurricular activities, everything you do in that week is essentially your whole world.
Yes.
So, you know, you're putting a lot of effort into this week, and it, you know, it is unfair for a parent to disregard that about you.
Another expectation I remember growing up as a kid, and I don't have any brothers, so I don't know if this is also for males, but for me, another expectation is to be demure, to be a wallflower, to kind of blend in and not be loud, don't be just be a lady. And not just terms of don't go running around screaming your head off, but in many like things, it kind of goes hand in hand with the being obedient and not standing up for yourself, not defending yourself because that's too loud. You're being too loud. And I always felt like I had to hold myself back in terms of expression because I am if you ever meet me, I'm a very loud, you will hear me before you see me. That is the ongoing joke.
Yes.
That I'm just very loud and vibrant and just overall a pretty happy and pleased person.
Yeah, which is one of the best qualities about you and your personality is your, you know, your vibrancy and your spirit is very outgoing.
Thanks.
You know, so, and I feel like that's crazy how, you know, growing up you were told that to be you know, to dumb yourself down or quiet yourself. But that's totally not you as an adult.
Girl, I had to break through the shackles that is the Filipino-American parents. But I remember one instance. So my dad and I went to the grocery store and we were in the commissary, which is a grocery store on the Air Force Base. And he let me pick out my own cereal. He was like, go and pick out your cereal for breakfast. And let me tell you, growing up, I loved cereal. When my dad took me to the commissary and let me pick out cereal, I was so excited. I had to release this excitement. So I remember twirling in the cereal aisle, not yelling, but just more expressing happily, I love cereal, and just twirling around. And I remember my dad kind of just being like, "Hoy, like you're too loud, like be quiet. You don't have to tell everyone you like cereal." Bitch, you loud as fuck.
Yeah.
No one needs to know how much you love Lucky Charms.
So it's interesting that you shared about how when you're a little kid, you know, your dad told you to kind of calm down a bit, and lower down your volume or your excitement, you know. And I honestly think that, you know, growing up, because I got the same thing, you know, use your indoor voice, don't be so loud. And I think that actually has affected me, like my personality sometimes. I was afraid to be really, really loud. And I'm not a loud person. I don't speak loud, you know. No. I'm very chill. But I feel like, you know, it has affected my personality as an adult in some sense, because I always felt like I did limit myself. You know, I tended to be a little more shy as a kid because I felt like I couldn't express myself, you know, or I had to limit myself or keep me like closed, kind of closed in, because I was afraid someone was going to say, hey, like, calm down, or you're too loud, or you're not acting the right way. Or, you know, little girls aren't supposed to be loud and in your face.
I mean, of course, there's always a time for indoor, outdoor voices and being respectful. But I think it's also the all-encompassing idea of just being a loud person, not in terms of volume, but in the way you express yourself. And I feel like there is a lot of detrimental side effects to that. I believe you teach a little girl to always be reserved, on top of the idea of not allowing them to defend themselves because it's talking back. And so what happens if that little girl grows up, and what if they unfortunately get sexually harassed, and in the back of her head she's like, you know what, it was my fault because I was too loud. Or it could even be something as simple as this little girl growing up to be a top employee. Maybe she's in a room with her boss and her coworkers, and she has this really great idea, and all of a sudden one of her coworkers interrupts her and then starts speaking on top of her. And instead of being, hey, you know, I wasn't done speaking, I wasn't done with my idea, let me finish real quick and then you could go ahead and chime in, instead of doing that and defending herself, she could possibly just let it happen and be like, you know, this is my cue to shut the fuck up because someone else is talking now.
Yeah. And, you know, also in that situation, I'm sure like somebody could go back and think like a memory pop up. So maybe it could be a memory they haven't thought about in years, but they'll think like, oh man, like I remember when I was trying to voice my opinion in this situation as a kid, you know, they stopped me, and this is the same situation. Like it's my cue to shut up. You know, and that's something that goes deeper into the psychology of things and how it affects you. And, you know, I think that's something that a lot of Filipino parents definitely don't realize in the way you're limiting your child, you know, affects them into adulthood.
Yeah. I don't think Filipino parents, okay, not all Filipino parents, because shout out to my cousin, my Tita Joy, she is an amazing mother. But I don't think all Filipino-American parents, I don't think they realize how toxic they are, and how the things that they do and how they raise their kids will ultimately affect them, and is the reason why so many of us are going to end up in therapy.
You know, in regards to raising children, in this day and age, you know, my sister, she has a daughter, and that's my bub. With bub, like she's a very outgoing, very expressive young girl. You know, I always think like if she grew up in a more traditional Filipino family, or maybe like an old school style Filipino family, who knows how much you know, limitation they'd put on her for being herself. And like I would hate to see that in her, because for one, you know, it's such a character destroyer, and you know, a confidence destroyer. You know, we have an opportunity as, you know, Filipino-Americans who have lived here you know, all our lives, you know, to raise our kids a certain way, or raise the next generation a certain way, to express themselves and not be scared to be themselves.
Yeah. Did you have a curfews growing up?
Yeah, I had a curfew for sure. My mom was very strict on making sure like we were home at a certain time. So even if we were late, say the curfew was 10 o'clock.
Yes.
And we so happened to stumble home at like 10:05, you're late. Yeah. And it's just like, wait, what you mean? Like I was getting out the car, opening the you know, the house door, and now it's 10:05. Like it doesn't mean I was late. So yeah, I remember, you know, like she'd be very, very strict about that. And that, you know, honestly, like if we were late one time, that would affect the next time we'd ask to go out. It would probably be a no, because it's like no, because you guys were late.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're lying, you're late.
So like, she expected you. So if your curfew was 10 p.m., she wanted you in the house at 10 p.m.
Or probably 9:50. Okay,
so that actually reminds me. So I have a younger sister. We're 11 years apart, and her curfew is a little earlier. It's like 9. I remember one time she called me because she was so frustrated. She went out with her boyfriend, and her curfew was 9 p.m. and she got home at like 8:50. Or 8:55. She was on time. She wasn't late. But I remember she called me because our dad basically yelled at her and chewed her out because she was quote unquote late. And she said, my curfew's 9. I'm home at 8:55. What's the big deal? And my dad told her like, no, you have to be home at like 8 o'clock. What are you doing? You could be studying. And
even though he told her 9?
He told her 9, but he was expecting her to be home way before 9. So my sister didn't do anything wrong. And the fact that my dad, it wasn't a school night. It was a Saturday. And she was home on time. She was home before 9. Like, that's good enough. And if you wanted her to be home at 8:30, you should have said your curfew is 8:30.
Yeah. See, that's some fucked up shit. Like, it's like, okay, just be clear and direct about what you want. You know, don't tell me one thing and then expect another, because then that's going to be, you know, that's going to create a barrier in your relationship.
Yes.
You know, the kid's going to act out. Teenagers, we all been teenagers.
Yes.
We're going to act out. You know, when we're unhappy, we're unhappy.
Yes.
And also too, things are confusing in your head. It's confusing about growing up and confusing trying to have a relationship with your parents.
Yeah.
You know, like that's something that I don't understand, man. Like, as a kid growing up too, you know, it's like, why can't you just trust me for once? You know, because I think too, in terms of expectations that Filipino parents have on you is you want your kids to be good, be obedient. Yes. But at the same time, you can't force that. So you have to trust that you're teaching your kids right.
Yeah.
You know, you have to trust that you're doing a good job as a parent to raise your kids to act, you know, act in the best way possible, to be great adults, great individuals in this world. And I think when the people who are the hardest on their kids, I feel like that's something internal, you know, that's a personal problem where it's like, you don't trust the way you're parenting.
Yes.
And that's where the shit really resides, you know, and you can't take it out on the kid.
Yeah.
'Cause you're doing a fucking shitty ass job.
Yeah. Damn. Did you have sleepovers growing up?
No. People slept over our house, but I could never sleep over someone else's house.
Yeah, same. With sleepovers and all that stuff. So as a teen, our household got way more strict than as a kid. Because now I got friends and I wanted to hang out with them, but I wasn't allowed to do anything. And my mom's biggest fear, or one of her biggest fears, is teen pregnancy. Because she is afraid that either myself or my younger sister would get pregnant young and essentially ruin their entire lives and not be able to finish school. And, you know, our life is over. My mom's not a teen pregnant. I mean, my mom wasn't pregnant as a teen. So I don't know where the fear came from.
I thought you meant you having a kid at a teen would ruin your parents' lives. I thought that's what you meant.
Oh, no. Like, if I were to be a teen mom,
okay,
my life would essentially be ruined. And yes, it would be hard, but that didn't mean I couldn't have finished school or anything like that. So I think, and I started my period when I was 11 going on 12. So I think also my mom's head, oh, this girl could get pregnant now. And so I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. But also my parents did raise me to be very obedient. So I was a very good kid. And I never really asked to go anywhere. On occasion to sleep over at my 2 best friends' house. I also wasn't one to sneak out of the house. I never got in trouble at school. Like, there was no reason for any teacher or administration or the principal to call home and say, hey, Carla's acting out.
Yeah.
You know, I rarely got trouble. And I remember one time I was allowed to work. I was allowed to work on a group project at Barnes & Noble. I went to school in Tracy, which is a small city up in Northern California. And so if you're familiar with the Tracy Mall, if you don't, then so there's a Barnes & Noble attached to the Tracy Mall. I believe now it's like a Dick's Sporting Good, but the Barnes & Noble is attached to the Tracy Mall, and then on the other side of the Tracy Mall is a Target. It's all connected. And my dad dropped me off at Barnes & Noble. He walked in with me to make sure I was safe. And I had 2 classmates I was working the project with, and it's this girl Kanani and a guy named Paul. Paul was there first. And I remember my dad kind of pulling me off to the side and being concerned and assuming that I was there to meet a boy. I'm like, no, I told you it's a group project. Like, Why would I lie about
it's crazy his head went there already.
Yeah, he's wet. Like, he saw a boy and me go up to them. And you know what was crazy? I remember thinking, oh my gosh, please both of them be there at the same time, or at least Kanani first. But no, Paul had to fucking be there first.
Yeah. And you're already prepping yourself for a situation that could happen.
Yeah. And it was... And then, so the three of us are there at Barnes & Noble working on this project together, and they decide, oh, we should go to Target and get some poster board. And I remember my dad specifically telling me, do not leave Barnes & Noble. And I froze and I got so scared, and I didn't want to be the loser and be like, no, you guys go ahead. My dad said no, I can't go anywhere. I have to stay in Barnes & Noble. So I decided to do the right thing and be responsible and call my dad and say, hey dad, I'm going to Target with my classmates. We're going to be 10 minutes. We're just going to walk through the mall and get poster board at Target. We'll be back at Barnes & Noble. We're not going anywhere else, just that. And so I did it, and then I was nervous the entire time. I was so scared, and I don't think that's the right mindset. Like, looking back, that is so toxic to think I'm getting in trouble to go to walking across the mall. It wasn't like I was jumping in either their cars and driving across the city to the Michaels.
Yeah. Now as an adult, like, listening to stories like this, it sounds so stupid.
Yeah.
It sounds so pointless. And I don't know. I'm happy I'm not a teenager anymore having to stress over some bullshit like that.
But did your parents ever say some crazy shit too to you growing up?
I'm sure they said a lot of crazy shit. You know, it's just stuff I didn't want to remember or didn't have to remember. Yeah. But I do remember one time my father made a comment, and this is one of the stupidest comments I've ever heard in my fucking life. Okay, so he was like, no woman ever enjoys sex. And I was probably like, 15 or something at the time. And he was like, no woman ever enjoys sex, not even like a prostitute or like a stripper or something like that, some sex worker term. So I was thinking, like, why are you telling me this? Is this to deter me from having sex? And then I was also thinking, like, okay, like, you do know that you got my mom pregnant and she had 4 kids, right? So are you telling me, like, every time you had sex with my mom, she didn't like it, so you're hurting her?
Oh,
like, what the fuck are you trying to tell me?
Yeah. Wait, question. How did that no women enjoy sex? How did that come to be? Were you just at IHOP and he said it?
I don't know how it came to be, but I do remember one time, this could have been around the same time he made the comment, but I remember one time, my cousin, she got pregnant. She was a teenager and she was probably like 17 or 18. And I remember going to their house, and her dad like hugged her and was like, oh, like my baby's having a baby, and I thought that was so cute. Like, yes, it's hard to have a kid young, because you're not prepared, or your finances aren't nearly close to raising a child. But as long as you have like a supportive family around you, and the people who truly love you are gonna support you, that's all that matters. The last thing a young teen who's pregnant needs is someone yelling at them, telling them they did wrong. And that's something that is crazy to me. You're young with no experience, and you must feel like so alone and helpless. So that came around the time with that comment, and I was just like, you're fucking dumb, dude.
I do think it's really cool that your cousin's Filipino parents were so supportive of her despite being a teen mom, because I don't think that's seen a lot in the Filipino-American community. Like I said, my mom's fear was us getting pregnant, and she always said, if you get pregnant, you are kicked out of this house. It reminds me, so one of my cousins, she got pregnant young, and I think she was 17 or 18, and she didn't tell her parents for like 6 months. So she was hiding a pregnancy for months, and it came out. And I remember
the baby?
No, the news came out, and I remember when the news broke out, my mom told me that, your cousin's pregnant, and she was hiding the baby from her parents for 6 months. And I was like, what? That's so crazy. And my mom was she brought it back she brought it back home and was like, see, don't get pregnant. I don't know. It's just scaring your kids into not having sex and not having these grown-up conversations with them and just assuming and just telling them, don't have sex. Well, who's going to teach them about sex? And then shit like this happens.
Yeah. Completely agree with you. Mm-hmm. So, with my father making this comment about, women not enjoying sex, mm-hmm. It might have been like a tactic in his eyes to be like, don't have sex, you're going to get pregnant. Mm-hmm. But no, it didn't even, like, at the time, I wasn't even thinking about sex. I wasn't one of those kids who are like, oh, I can't wait to fuck, But, the only thing that stuck in my mind was like, damn, you're such a dick for saying this kind of comment. Mm-hmm. This is, first off, you're a man. You shouldn't be talking about women's sexually, and their sexual wants and just women as sexual beings. And also, like, you're sexualizing your child.
Yeah.
Why are you thinking about me having sex right now? Goes back to you raise your kids right, and you trust the way you raise your kids.
Yeah.
And obviously you didn't trust the way you raised me. So that's on you.
Yeah, and the way when your dad said that no woman ever enjoys sex, it's like as if sex exists only to please men. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's kind of narcissistic.
It is. It's disgusting.
Gross.
Yeah, there's definitely different ways to really educate and teach your kid, and just by yelling at them and saying no, that's not the way to do it.
Yeah,
you're not teaching them, and you definitely aren't stopping them from doing what you don't want them to do.
Exactly. If anything, you saying no is gonna make them want to do it, because especially if you don't say why, if you're just say don't have sex, you'll get pregnant, but like they might also be curious, like, oh, why is it so bad? And then you do it and you realize it's kind of fun. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you have fun?
I have a lot of fun.
Girl, me too. Okay. Speaking of not of like fun, but like not having fun, have you ever sat at the kitchen table and cried while your father is helping you do math?
No.
Okay.
Contrary to a lot of like Asian families, Filipino families getting good grades, that was something that was pushed in my household, but at the same time, it wasn't hella strict.
Gotcha.
I got B's and C's. I was smart, but I just didn't apply myself. I think that was more so that got me in trouble. Like, I wanted to go play ball or like go do something else that wasn't studying. That's what got me in trouble for the most part.
Gotcha. Yeah, because getting good grades is another expectation as a teen, or like as kids in grade school. Wow. Okay.
Same shit.
Clearly we could see how well I did in school. Okay, but no, seriously, in high school I wasn't too academically sound. I took AP classes. I had some honor classes here and there. I wasn't failing every class, but I also wasn't getting straight A's. And there's just this ongoing Asian meme about the Asian F. So anything that's not an A is an F. And my parents, so they attributed good grades to being a good kid. And I remember they used to always compare me to my cousin. I'm going to call her Nancy because I didn't tell her about saying this episode or talking about the story. So my cousin Nancy, they always compared me to her because she always had straight A's. And I'm pretty sure, they would go over to my aunt and uncle's house. They'd be like, oh, Nancy, she got straight A's. She's on the dean's list, got all these awards. That's great for my cousin. And my parents were probably had
Nobody
nothing.
cares.
My parents probably had nothing to say. They were probably like, oh, Carla came home.
Carla came home today. That's an A for me.
But they were always telling me, oh, you have to be like Nancy. She gets straight A's. She's such a good thing. But little did they know, my cousin Nancy she wasn't a bad kid, but she was also one to sneak out of the house. She always had secret boyfriends. She was always getting into some catty drama with girls at school, always getting in some kind of trouble. I remember one time she went off on like a weekend with her friends and probably her secret boyfriend. She didn't say anything, or maybe she did say something, but then she stopped responding to her texts. And so her parents were so worried. And her grandma, who lived with them, was so worried about my cousin being gone because she wasn't responding to texts or anything. They just didn't know where she was. That her grandma had like a heart attack or just had high blood pressure. The ambulance, like she came home to the ambulance.
Oh my God.
Because her grandma was so stressed and so worried that something could have happened. And this is a girl that was quote unquote the good girl that my parents deemed her to be only because she got straight A's. I wasn't one to sneak out of the house or anything like that, but here I was, a bad kid and a disappointment because I didn't get straight A's in school, and fuck. I'll never forget that.
That's crazy, man. Yeah. I don't know how you could bounce back from that. I mean, not the grandma, but you know.
Like, she's fine. She's okay.
I meant like the kid, you know, finding out that you snuck out the house, worried everybody, grandma went to the hospital, and now she's, you know.
I mean, she's great now. Like, she's about to be she's in med school. She's a kid. You know,
she's talking about the grandma.
Oh, no, my cousin. Like, my cousin bounced back.
Okay.
Like, she's not a bad kid. She just did, like, very teenager things, you know?
I would say more so, like, bounce back, like, damn, girl, you ran away. Essentially, you're not telling people. Mm-hmm. And then you had Lola, you know, in the hospital because her blood pressure spiked up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's guilt right there.
Right? Yeah. You know? I feel you.
You know, one thing that annoys me about, you know, families being so strict on grades and shit is, like, you can be the smartest person in the room, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be the most moral, ethical, compassionate, loving person in the room. All it proves is your brain is a certain level of intelligence where you can solve problems or you think a certain way. And that's great. But at the same time, you know, I feel like Filipino parents lose sight of the good in it all. Yeah. You know, yes, you're going to look great on paper to the best schools, you know, the best employers, but at the same time, how good are you as a person?
Yeah.
You know, in my experience dealing with people, the smartest people aren't the most, like, street smart. Yeah. They're kind of dumb. They kind of make poor choices. They're not the nicest people. And that's not the type of people that I want around me. I want good, wholehearted people, you know, who are gonna love you, support you, and all that. And grades don't indicate that.
You know, and it's typical for immigrant Filipino parents to expect a lot from their kids. You know, be good, go to college, get a good job, and it does make sense because a lot of our parents immigrate to the U.S. and they sacrifice so much to get out here, and they don't want all their hard work to go down the drain. But also, what do you expect if you bring your child to the land of opportunities and they're exposed to way more options than they could have than in the Philippines? And so why should Filipino parents only expect their kids to become a nurse or only become an engineer when they have, you know, thousands of other opportunities to be other things other than that?
Whatever they want to be.
Yeah. So, Jazz, what did your parents say to you when you told them you wanted to be in the entertainment field?
Yeah, so when I started college, I didn't immediately jump into the entertainment industry or a major that was entertainment based. So I was actually studying criminal justice, and I wanted to be a cop. I was thinking about joining the military as well. And, you know, in my later years in college, I decided that I was going to switch it up because, you know, I started like interning and seeing other opportunities in the industry, and, you know, working behind the scenes and being in the creative space was something that I really, really enjoyed. I knew I could hang with the best of them. You know, it's a hard industry to be in, and there's not a lot of representation, you know, in women or just women of color, you know, and I rarely saw Filipinos. So I saw a space in this industry that I could create for myself. And, you know, one thing, when I moved from San Francisco to LA, that I always love and I always say to people is I always wanted to come back with a story.
Okay.
You know, that's why I wanted to leave, because, you know, everybody you grow up with has the same damn story, you know, like, and they live where they grew up. Whereas, you know, living in LA and coming back home, I could share with people what I did.
Yeah.
Maybe inspire people to like bounce and move somewhere else or start another career. I would still be told, apply for this government job. You know, it's stable, it pays well. You should consider it, has benefits and, you know, here and there, but it wasn't forced upon me to say, hey, you know, stop working in the industry.
Gotcha.
You know, it's like, say, for example, my mom, she worked for the Postal Service and she built a great, successful career for herself, you know, so I knew the side of it where you will get the benefits and get, you know, the stability. But, you know, I also believe that she was proud of me for creating my own, you know, pathway and journey of my own career and kind of figuring things out, you know, and I think that was really cool because she wasn't forcing me to stick to the typical route of a Filipino career, you know, like the nurse. Like I honestly, every time I heard people say, oh, you should be a nurse, you should be a nurse, I got so annoyed. It's like, shut the fuck up about this nurse shit. Like, I'm not going to be a nurse. Yeah. And it's not because I don't think I can't do it. I just don't want it. Yeah. You know, and you can't force me. And I think that's something as a kid, I also was kind of rebellious because I didn't want to be forced and put into this box of what you wanted me to be. So you weren't getting that and you knew it.
Yeah. I think that's really awesome that your parents never pushed you into wanting to pushed you into a career that was not yours. Like you said, it's not like you couldn't be a nurse, but it's just that you didn't want to. And as something as becoming a nurse, you gotta want that shit. You know, my mom's a nurse, but she legitimately loves being a nurse. It's, you know, not something that she wanted to do because she was forced to or anything, but she legitimately loves her job. She loves her patients. She loves taking care of people. And that's the type of nurse I want. You know, you don't want someone who was just forced into it because their Filipino parents told them to and you didn't have the balls to stand up for yourself, you know. And
so with your mom, you're saying your mom's a nurse, like, you know, and she's a great nurse at that. Did she force you, or not force you, but did she ever ask you, like, or expect you to become a nurse?
Oh, girl, I feel like I could have a whole episode by myself about this, because let me tell you. So like I said, I grew up obedient as fuck. I was a good kid always, and I always listened to my parents. But there came a time about when I was like maybe 15, 16, when I realized my parents' flaws and how toxic and kind of fucked up they are. I mean, love my parents, love them. But just the way they were raising me just wasn't, and the way they were treating me just wasn't, it wasn't a very nice, I didn't feel loved or I felt ever supported. So I grew up doing musical theater. My first play ever musical was in the 3rd grade. I played the bunny in Snow White. I had like 2 lines. One of them was, I can't believe my ears. And I grew up doing it. I loved the arts. I loved to draw. I loved to write and just to be creative. And
you can draw?
Oh, I used to draw anime. When I lived in Japan, I learned how to draw anime because everyone was drawing it, and so I kind of picked it up. I'm not that good, to be honest, but I could do a little some. But because I was someone who grew up to be obedient, to be demure, to be a wallflower, and to not be loud, I could be loud through art. And that's why being creative is one of the most important things to me. And I wanted to become a Disney Channel actress. I wanted to be, you know, as big as Hilary Duff, as big as Raven Simone, and, you know, have my own TV show. And I wanted to be an actress so bad. I started, you know, I learned how to, I researched how to become an actress. You know, I knew I needed to take classes, get some headshots down. And I did such extensive research, but my parents were definitely not supportive of that. They did not want me to become an actress. Me doing theater on the side, and musical theater, was just something like as a hobby. But when it came to me wanting to pursue it full time as a career, that was something they weren't supportive of at all. And I remember when my dad and I would be in the car, we would drive around, and whenever we would see a homeless person, he would say, that is a failed actor. That is someone who tried to be an actress but failed. And so it was wild. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, and you know what's also crazy is when my dad would say that, I knew he was being like so irrational, just kind of dumb, because in school I learned that a lot of the homeless people are actually veterans. And at the time, my dad had already retired from the Air Force. And in my head, I wanted so bad to just be like, Dad, you're wrong. That's probably a veteran. That could have been you, Dad.
Dude, that's crazy. I bet you if you did say that, you would get a lot of shit back. Be like, don't you say that, or don't talk back, or what are you talking about? When it's the facts. Like, a lot of veterans do end up being homeless and forgotten about.
Continuing on, like, I went to college and I was a radio TV film major, and I do have a story that kind of shed some extra light to how unsupportive my parents were. So after high school, I didn't go straight to university. I went to a 2-year community college. And for that spring semester, my last semester at community college, I had won most outstanding student for the entire radio television department. And we had this huge award show for all the outstanding students of each department to receive their awards. I wanted to do film. I wanted to become a screenwriter, and I worked so hard, and I was so enthusiastic about being in this program, in this department, and putting in so many hours to make the best short films I could. And the fact that I had gotten this, out of all the students in the department, me, a Filipino-American immigrant, had gotten this award. My teacher could have picked anybody, but he chose me. And it was also really precious and special to me, because looking back on it, I think it's beautiful, because it could have been any other white guy up there, but it was me. And the fact that it's me, a Filipino-American, a woman of color, an immigrant, meant so much to me. And my parents were late to the ceremony, so they didn't get to see me get my award and hear this wonderful speech that my teacher had made about me, about how much I grew since semester 1. And I sometimes think, if I had gotten most outstanding student for the science department or the math department, would they have been there on time?
I think it's really dope that you're still able to have a lot of achievements, not only in your education, but in your career as well, because of course you want the support of your parents, but at the end of the day, if people aren't going to support you, it shouldn't hold you back from achieving or going for your dreams.
I remember one time when I was in film school, I told myself, if I ever win an Oscar, my parents would not get a thank you. The first thank you would go to my professor, Mr. William Story, who believed in me wholeheartedly and told me, he never once said, oh, I don't know if you could do that. He said, why not? Why can't you do that? Just do it. And I was like, oh, shit. And for the first time in my life, respected adult told me that I could be a filmmaker.
So in my senior year, I had a showcase, like a film showcase as well. So this was in college. And, I was going to school in LA. So I told my parents about it. And so my parents actually made a trip down from San Francisco to come down to LA for the day. It wasn't even a day, they said. And then they rented out a hotel in LA just for them to make it in time to watch my project, be a part of this showcase. And it was really important for me for them to come down, because I was going to school in LA, and they didn't know what I was doing in my day to day. They just heard what I was doing. So it was, if they hadn't come, I definitely would have been really sad.
Yeah.
Because it's also, I didn't need their praise or anything like that, but it was important for me that they see how I'm impacting the people around me, and how I'm playing my own part in the people around me, and making my own way out here. And, as soon as like my film ended and people like clapped and, like cheered or whatever, because they really liked it, it wasn't about the people. It was more so like my parents seeing that, you know,
Yeah.
and I thought that was a special moment for sure that I'll always be grateful for, that they came down and took time off work just to see me do my thing. You know?
That's really nice that your parents legit took the time off and drove
They
from
took a flight.
Oh, just kidding. Okay, but they had to purchase the purchase the plane tickets and come down to LA to see this senior showcase. My parents couldn't even be on time after driving 30 minutes to my school
To the
campus.
school, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing about my parents growing up. Like they allowed their kids to be involved in hella extracurricular activities. So whether it be like, you know, sports, piano, karate classes, you know, and now, you know, this film project, you know, this film showcase, they definitely made it a priority to show up to and support us.
Yeah, that's really good. That's awesome. That's so beautiful. I'm kind of jealous. But I'm a little jealous, but I'm also not, because my parents not supporting me was total fuel for me to like soar with flying, vibrant, boss ass bitch colors, because them not supporting me and just talking mad shit about what I do just kept me going and just kept me pushing forward, and it still pushes me forward to this day. Despite being obedient, like I was not going to be compliant about this one thing. It was my own ultimate form of rebellion, of just breaking out of the shackles that my parents had me on, and taking control of my life and doing something I wanted to be. Because for a good kid who wasn't underage drinking, who wasn't getting into drugs, who wasn't sneaking out, this was the one thing I wanted. The one thing I wanted was support for becoming an actress or just getting into the entertainment field, and that was something my parents couldn't even do. But yeah, so another expectation, I guess, within the realm of adulthood is marriage and kids.
Yeah, in Filipino culture, you know, family is very, very important. It's definitely high on the priority list. And adding a significant other into the picture is a really big thing. It's actually, I would say it's a huge milestone in somebody's life.
Yeah. And Filipino parents tend to put their input of preferences when it comes to their child's dating life. Oh, we would prefer you to date someone who's an engineer, or who, you know, who's this or that. It's like, let your child live. Let them pick.
Yeah. See, in my family, I don't think that they expected me to marry a Filipino, but it was preferred.
Gotcha.
Because, you know, it would be easier for the families to combine, because, you know, you're familiar with each other. Also, growing up Catholic, you know, a lot of Filipinos are Catholic. You know, say if you say I'm Catholic, well, I grew up Catholic, and I wanted to be or marry someone who was, I don't know, Jewish. Like, they have their practices, Catholic has their practices, and it could clash, you know. And it's like, how are you going to raise your kids? You're going to raise them Catholic, you're going to raise them Jewish, you know. But at the same time, it's like, you know, like, you're a kid. You're not going to be thinking about like, dang, I should really avoid you because you're not Catholic. You know, like,
how are we going to baptize our kids?
You know, that's not going to make any sense. Also, like, you're not going to be thinking about having kids. You know, you're thinking about what passing the math test, you know? And so, like, in my personal relationships, in my serious relationships, I've only dated one Filipino. So, you know, it didn't deter me from wanting to date people in other ethnicities, other cultures. It actually, you know, intrigued me because it was something different. And, you know, I could not only learn about this person, but I could learn about their families, you know, and see like our commonalities, you know, because I don't think like just because you're Filipino, I'm always going to vibe with you. Like, it's about the person, you know, like you could be any background as long as we get along. You know, you coincide with my life and we vibe like that, then it is what it is. I'm not going to avoid you just because you're not Filipino. Like, I was never with that.
Yeah. I remember my grandma telling me to marry a Filipino man because my dad will have a companion. And I always thought that was funny, but it goes hand in hand with what you're saying about the families blending in, because if you marry a person, you're marrying into their family too, and that bodes true for a lot of Filipino families, both my mom's side and my dad's side are close to each other. My cousins on both sides, they're friends with each other. You know, and I think that's really cool. I love having a huge, fun family like that where everyone gets along and, you know, yeah, it's just really cool. So I totally get it, but I think it's just funny because whenever my grandma would say, "Oh, so your dad will have a companion," I just thought about my dad gardening in the backyard with another man.
His buddy.
So my parents, they have these family friends. Honestly, I think they're related to us somehow. We have a big ass family. Every time I go to another family party, I meet another godmother, cousin, or something. But so they come over to my parents' house often, and sometimes they spend the night. And so I remember when if I would come home and they were there, like if I'm visiting my parents, come home, they'd be there. They would always ask me. The guy would always ask me. Tito would always ask me, "Oh, Carla, when are you gonna have the long table?" And a long table means kids, a family.
Okay.
And I'd respond and be like, "Well, I'm concentrating on my career right now. I'm also single, you know, and I just don't feel comfortable bringing children into this world right now at, you know, where I am in life as a responsible adult, you know." And I remember him replying saying, "Oh, well, if you don't have kids now, if you have kids at a later life, your kids are going to be mentally retarded and have a lot of health issues." And he's a doctor, so he's not necessarily wrong, but just the fact that that's how you would respond as if you're shaming me or guilting me into having kids now because otherwise they're not going to be healthy. Like, first of all, mind your business. It's not like I could be like, "Mind your damn business, sir." I had to respect my elders and say like, "Oh, haha, yeah, I get it," and then walk away.
See, that's so fucking out of pocket because first off, you never talk to a woman, whether they're, you know, 30 or 15, you know, you never talk to a woman about this, especially someone you don't personally know. And, you know, just like randomly seeing you at, you know, on a Tuesday and bringing it up when you just walk into the room or whatever. It's like, it's out of pocket, you know, and it's like, know your boundaries, dude. You know, you never know someone's background or struggle. You know, even if they were in a relationship and been together with someone for a couple of years and wondering why they don't have kids, it's just not your place to be asking that kind of question. And, you know, just because it's like, it might be his goal or his way of seeing like, okay, now in life, you should have a child now. It doesn't mean it's everybody's goal, you know, and that was just inappropriate to ask. Like, I think too, like Filipinos, like they have no filter sometimes, you know. I remember there'd be times where I've heard someone say like, "Oh," they'll say it in like Bisaya, right? They'll be like, "Oh, they're so and so's like they got fat," you know, like, and and it's just like, why does it matter if they gain some weight? You know, who knows? Like maybe they have taken medication, they're gaining weight, or maybe they just like, you know, packing little pounds in the winter. You know, it's still none of your business. Yeah. You know, and it's very, very rude.
My parents, they never defended me. And this has happened more than once where they've asked me, "When am I going to have kids?" Like, instead of telling him, "Oh, mind your business," or, "Oh, you know, Carla's concentrating on her career right now," or, you know, she's just, you know, she doesn't want kids right now. Instead of just defending me and just being like, "Hey, like boundaries," they never said anything. And it could have been because they probably didn't want to stir the pots, you know, and be disrespectful, or they didn't want to defend me because these people, they're significantly not that much older than my parents. They're probably older than my parents by like 15 to 20 years. So they probably didn't want to defend me because it would be seen as talking back, you know. So it kind of brings it full circle where my parents were probably taught to be obedient kids, and it trickled into adulthood, and it's now affecting their kids. So instead of defending me and saying, "Hey, sir, boundaries," or, you know, "Oh, leave her alone about that stuff," they just let it happen and laugh it off and join in on the joke of, you know, things like that. So I don't know. It's fucked up.
Damn, that's some wild shit.
It is wild shit. I don't know. I'm just like, I have no words, and honestly, I think the episode's over. I think we kind of brought it full circle because we started the episode talking about being obedient, and that's an expectation, and being demure, and now how my parents didn't defend me, and maybe it's because they didn't want to be disrespectful and are falling back and succumbing back to what they were taught as kids by being demure and not talking back to these people. So I don't know.
You gotta break that cycle, man.
Gotta break that cycle. And this is why we have these conversations and all that stuff, and now we're gonna break the cycle.
So with you all, share with us, what were your expectations growing up? Do you share the same expectations we had? Let us know your thoughts.
And you can tell us all about it on social media. We are on Instagram and Facebook at Cracking the Coconut, as well as TikTok and Twitter at Cracking the Coco.
Yes, and you could also follow our website. It's crackingthecoconut.com. Be sure to check it out. We also have our feed there that has all of our episodes that we've done. Yeah, that wraps it up. So we're going to wrap it up there, son.
Wrap it up there, son.
Wrap it up there, son. Okay. Catch y'all next time.
See ya.
Peace.
Peace.